controversy first broke, our next guest tweeted out, "Put a fork in him, he's done." After the report came out, he just tweeted out a picture of a fork. Senator Rob Schaaf, no one's going to accuse you of not having a sense of humor. State Senator from St. Joseph. Good morning, Senator. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good. Now, tell us about this letter you sent to President Trump.
Oh, well, you know, it appears to us that no matter what happens, no matter, you know, how many people come out and say to the governor, you really ought to step aside, that he isn't going to do it. He's entrenched. He's hired a public relations firm. He's all lawyered up with multiple lawyers. He had a press conference saying he wasn't going to resign. So just thinking about it, you know, why is it that he's like that? I think it's his military training. You know, he's portrayed himself as a Navy SEAL. During his campaign, since he's been in office, he rappelled into a meeting. And, you know, Navy SEALs don't walk away from battle. They don't ever surrender. But they also are trained to listen to their commander-in-chief. And so it's worth a shot just to see if the commander-in-chief could get him to step aside.
Newsmax had a story yesterday that at least the White House was thinking about it. Newsmax, of course, a conservative website that has close ties to President Trump. Have you heard anything from the White House in response to that letter?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
And I seriously don't expect, you know, the president to really to do anything. But sending the letter sent a message and help to raise awareness of the problem.
Yeah. Senator Rob Schaaf, you've had your differences with the governor. He took out some ads last year, put your phone number on the ads, and you of him had your battles. How much of this between you and the governor of your own party and your call for him to step down and or resign is personal?
None.
None whatsoever?
No. No, I mean, my beef with the governor is his behavior as governor.
All of this behavior in this report was before he was governor. Does that matter?
Not really to me. It doesn't. And my real true beef with the governor isn't about all the things in that report, although they're really disturbing. My beef is the way that he is conducting himself as governor, the things that have the appearance of corruption when you look at them. And, you know, for example, giving a statewide contract to Centene for managed care under Medicaid when he won't tell how much Centene gave him in campaign contributions or contributed to a new Missouri. Taking $1 million from David Humphreys, the shingle manufacturer, and then saying in his State of the State speech that Missourians ought to give up their right to sue, which would benefit that company. Just, things like that, things that have the appearance of corruption that are just intolerable in my eyes. I think they're an order of magnitude worse than what you have, going on in this investigation, although this is horrible.
Yeah. Just so I understand you, appearance of corruption is different than corruption. Money in politics, we can lament, right? Politics in money all day long. But everything he's done up until now has been legal, has it not? I mean, he could take money from a company and then have an opinion about that industry, could he not?
As long as there's no quid pro quo, but how do you know? I mean, if the people of Missouri aren't allowed to know how much money was contributed, when he said, we will disclose all our donors, and then he didn't do it. Mm-hmm. He said the most important thing is transparency around the money, and then he didn't disclose his donors. I mean, how can anyone know? And, saying that he's going to create his drug database, and then giving a no-bid contract to Express Scripts, which it turns out that there was no contract for a technical reason, but he was fully intent upon doing it.
You are a Republican. You're a very conservative Republican. I'm wondering what your mail has been running like since you've been so vocal in calling out the governor of your own party and calling for him to resign.
Oh, I haven't seen a whole lot of mail. The people that talk to me are very supportive, and I just feel like there's always going to be people on both sides of any issue.
What happens now? Because it seems like there are a lot of people within your party that run Jefferson City. It seems like there's an impeachment trial and hearing in the full House and in the Senate coming down the pike no matter what happens.
Well, that depends on the House and whether the House decides to impeach. And I have no idea whether they will, but I lean toward thinking that they will, just looking at the responses that I've seen. And once they do that, then that goes over to the Senate, and the Senate chooses 7 judges from the state. And those 7 judges have 30 days to meet and decide the case.
Do you think that they're waiting to see what happens in the city of St. Louis if he either the charges are dropped or he's found not guilty? Do you think that will affect the decision in the House?
No, I really don't. I think that he won't be charged with the same thing. In my mind, it isn't likely that he'll be charged with the same thing. You know, the business in St. Louis is all about transmitting a photograph that you take. The impeachment would be more on something like moral turpitude.
Right. Rob Schaaf, the state senator from Jefferson City, is with us for a couple more minutes. Let me ask you this question, because this was sort of floated out there the last couple of days. Eric Greitens is, his attorney is Ed Dowd, who, in terms of full disclosure, I guess he is my attorney as well, so we have attorney-client privileges. I don't want my name coming up in a court document anywhere getting yelled at. But Ed Dowd is a Democrat. Ed Dowd was appointed by Bill Clinton for the Waco investigation. He has supported Democrats throughout his years, probably a very big Claire McCaskill supporter. Yesterday, he called on Josh Hawley to drop an investigation into Eric Greitens, which many people say is weakening Josh Hawley in his race against Claire McCaskill. Some people have floated the idea that Eric Greitens is actually hurting Josh Hawley because Ed Dowd also wants to hurt Josh Hawley in his Senate race. Have you heard any talk about that, and or what are your thoughts as you hear a scenario like that?
Oh, listen, I think everybody involved has their own biases and their own preferences, and I think people do things, to push their own agendas all the time. So I'm not at all surprised. I mean, Greitens himself was a Democrat, prior to running for governor.
Right.
So, I'm not surprised by anything like that.
Do you think that's possible? Or let me ask you this question. Let me ask it this way. Do you think Josh Hawley has a real possibility of being hurt in his campaign against Senator McCaskill?
Oh, listen, I think all the Republicans are hurt by this. The longer the governor stays in office, the more it's hurting the Republicans. The polling shows that Republicans, generally, their perception is in the tank since this whole thing started. And if Eric Greitens cared at all about the Republican Party, he'd step aside immediately.
State Senator Rob Schaaf, you're always welcome here. Thank you for your time, and safe travels, and we'll talk to you down the road.